So another thing I wanted to do in class today is talk a little bit about the introduction to this textbook we're using. It's a sort of unusual textbook, and the introduction sets up the basic idea of they say, I say. I wanted to, in class, talk a little bit about what you read and then make a few comments of my own. So this is what we were going to do. If I were to give a little reading quiz, let's see how well you would do. True or false? The authors especially recommend that you agree and disagree at the same time when you write about what they say. That is true. This last option, agreeing and disagreeing simultaneously, is one we especially recommend, they say, since it allows you to avoid a simple yes or no response and present a more complicated argument. I think what they're getting at is that in a lot of academic writing, simply agreeing isn't enough to justify writing, and simply disagreeing, although very often useful and important, is less thought-provoking and productive than sort of wrestling with someone else's arguments. So in many cases, what you'll do is agree and disagree and explain where you stand in relation to what they say. Second question, the authors argue that using templates may be unoriginal and uncreative, but can strengthen your writing immensely. That is a trick question if that is false. They do not argue that templates may be unoriginal and uncreative. In fact, they say this: in our view, templates will actually help your writing become more original and creative, not less. And later they say, ultimately, creativity and originality lie not in the avoidance of established forms, but in the imaginative use of them. And they use some good metaphors and comparisons to music, and you could think about sports or something like that. People don't make up their own ways to do free throws or jump shots or something like that. They use the best wisdom and practice and perfect them. The same goes for writing. The point isn't to be utterly original, it's to be effective and creative and thoughtful in the way you use the forms. Finally, using templates that you find in other writers' writing makes you guilty of plagiarism, something we talked about last week. They make it clear it is not plagiarism to recycle conventionally used formulas for your own uses in your own writing. It is plagiarism, however, if the words used to fill in the blanks of such formulas are borrowed from others without proper acknowledgement. And this is an important distinction in your own assignment. I've started to look at these, and I noticed some of you blurred the line here between summarizing in your own words and copying and pasting parts of their writing into these blanks. The idea of the word summarize there is to translate their ideas into your own words, and some of you, I think, found, maybe in part because all of us have been trained from kindergarten on to search for the answers to fill in the blanks, and maybe the blanks was the wrong approach here, but some of you strayed too closely to plagiarism. So here's an example. They provide templates designed to help students successfully enter the world of academic thinking and writing. And then this is from the book itself, designed to help you successfully enter not only the world of academic thinking and writing, but also the wider worlds of civic discourse and work. That's far, far, far too close. And that would be plagiarism if it were used in a paper, because there are no quotation marks here and no recognition. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. But using the templates themselves, they make clear, is not plagiarism. I wanted to touch on a couple other key points from the introduction. One point they make here: good writers use various forms and various rhetorical moves, quote, often without consciously realizing it, just as basketball players don't consciously think about how hard to push the ball or when to let it go when they shoot. Sounds sort of ridiculous to even say that. Writers do the same thing, although when you're learning to write more effectively, it's useful, as they make it clear, to focus in on these rhetorical moves and to think consciously about some of these things. This is another good quote, I thought. What makes writers masters of their trade is not only their ability to express interesting thoughts, but their mastery of an inventory of basic moves that they probably picked up by reading a wide range of other accomplished writers. That really struck me, and in part you could think of this on the most simple level. You learn when you're reading even kids' books, you learn some really profoundly important moves, such as blank and blank, or blank but blank. You learn pretty early on that those are profoundly different moves you make with a single word, and then you learn yet, and you learn some others. You learn later more complicated ways of doing those moves, like in addition, furthermore, also, finally, to get across the idea of and. However, nevertheless, on the other hand, on the contrary, to get across a similar idea. And although, admittedly, certainly, granted, to be sure, and there are many more, these are not equivalent words. These are not the same. They do a different sort of work. They do something more. They're more complex. And if you take these ideas and take it further, then you get to the idea of these templates that the book is suggesting. A couple things to notice here. Good moves, as they say in this quote here, an inventory of basic moves. Good moves do not equal good writing, but of course good ideas alone do not equal good writing either. I've had plenty of students who can write very, very clean, perfect sentences. That doesn't necessarily make their writing good, in the same way that you can have great ideas but not express them clearly, and that doesn't make good writing either. Obviously, on some level, there's a simple formula here. You need to have both, but I want to make it clear too, it's a mistake to see good ideas and good moves as separate things. That good moves are simply something like proofreading that you add to your good ideas. If I think of something like the random therefore, or the random word that sometimes will show up in a paper when students are told, use transition words, use also, use in addition. Once in a while those things will show up in places they don't belong, and then suddenly it's a good move, but it doesn't make any sense there. And ideas and the language you express those ideas in have everything to do with each other. Semicolon, I meant the same thing there. That semicolon is a powerful move that writers have, but when you use them incorrectly, suddenly that move is not only doesn't add to your writing, it takes away from the clarity of your writing. The book recognizes this fact that these two things are inseparable in one interesting way. Quote, "It is true, of course, that critical thinking and writing go deeper than any set of linguistic formulas." And then they say this, "But those deeper habits of thought cannot be put into practice unless you have a language for expressing them in clear, organized ways." Those deeper habits of thought cannot be put into practice unless you have a language for expressing them. In other words, good ideas don't even matter unless you have good moves. And I would add, good moves can sometimes be a source of good ideas. Meaning, for example, something as simple as taking two short sentences and combining them with a semicolon can, if you use it correctly, create create deeper, more complex ideas than you had with just two simple sentences. So the move itself can actually add richness to your ideas. That's a little abstract, I know, a little complex, but I wanted to zero in on those ideas that I saw in the introduction. We'll talk much more in the coming weeks about some of their other ideas that they have. I'll end this video here, and then we'll have one more that I'll talk to you about essay number 2 and where we're headed next. So that's it for this one.